Hey guys, Kyle the Death Knight of Anime here, bringing you my review for One Piece episode 838. Again, very late, I know. Sorry. Um, yeah, what can you do, right? But anyway, let's jump into this review. And I read. I wanted to start by talking about a comment I read on my last video saying that Big Mom would have ended up following the same path. What path? What either way, whether or not she ate Mother Caramel or not. And it's one of those things where, while I do agree, I'm not entirely convinced that's what Ichida Oda was originally trying to portray there. I think what he was trying to get across is that evil can be spawned even with the best intentions. Big Mom was originally a very kind person, but she was also very confused about what was right and what was wrong. And because no one really taught her, like in depth about about pretty much what makes a good person, about what makes a good person, she kept doing the same thing over and over again, thinking it was okay. It was one of those things where she was never really taught, like, okay, this is okay, this isn't. You can do this, but you can't do that for reasons A, B, and C. But again, no one really ever taught her that shit, so she just kind of assumed that it was okay to keep doing this over and over again. And I will give Mother Caramel to her very little credit, even if she was lying that she tried, but she never really tried hard enough to be disciplinary to Big Mom. And from there, pretty much all it takes is one. And from there, after a while, it starts to build up, and it only takes one person after that to twist that innocence into something bad, which is pretty much what Struzan did in this episode. He kept twisting her actions again and again and again and again until he pretty much had her doing exactly what he wanted, pretty much. Um, Although I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel a little sympathetic towards Big Mom's goal of what she wanted the whole Cake Island to be. When you basically see the flashback of Caramel talking to all the children of the Lamb House about developing a country with equality without hate and racism, because let's be honest, that's basically a pipe dream we all wish. We pretty much all wish the world could be a place where basically everyone got along. But let's be honest, the world is just too fucked up for that to be real. In fact, in many as weird as it sounds, in many respects, from watching this episode, I'm reminded of the South Park episode Cancelled, where pretty much aliens put whole bunch of people on Earth in order just for the sole purpose of hating each other and getting into conflicts and whatnot. Like, yeah, that's pretty much us, and in a nutshell. But yeah, like it's one of those things where I do sympathize a lot more with Big Mom's goal. But at the end of the day, it's really just something that can only exist in One Piece. Real life, it ain't never gonna happen. It never will happen. At least not perfectly. But yeah, so we get introduced to Struzan in Big Mom's backstory, and that he was pretty much there from the very beginning of Big Mom Pirates' inception. And again, it's one of those things where we can't say he's 100% responsible, because there were a lot of factors that contributed to pretty much what inevitably Big Mom became. So we can't say she's 100% responsible for turning Big Mom into the vicious pirate she's become, but he definitely gave it that final push. He gave Big Mom that final push of saying, okay, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do this. Like, he basically had Big Mom at the time. He basically had Big Mom eating out of the palm of her hand. And although I will say it is kind of interesting how, as weird and twisted as it is, there are little hints throughout this episode where you can see that Struzan and Big Mom, that they actually developed a genuine a genuine relationship, like not the romantic kind, but a genuine respect for each other and a genuine friendship with each other. So yeah, even though in the beginning it was more than obvious he was using her, it almost seemed that as time passed, you can see that genuine connection definitely developed. And I think even though it was just a small little hint of it, I think the scene of Struzan basically attempting to trying to warn Big Mom of what Beige was going to do to her, I think that's kind of like a small little bit of basically what Struzan and Big Mom's partnership eventually became. It did eventually become that whole thing. It did eventually become that whole. It did become that whole thing of, yeah, they genuinely have a genuine respect for each other, as twisted as it was in the beginning. And so naturally, as expected, the assassination plan failed, and it's kind of funny how Big Mom's misplaced love for Carmel is what saved her in the end, because it was remembering Carmel's lie about a country where everyone can live peacefully is inevitably what willed her back, just enough to stop the rockets and the Straw Hats' escape. So it's which yeah, at that point, at this point it's like this everyone's pretty much both Beige's crew, the Fire Tank Pirates, and the Straw Hats are pretty much fucked. Although, based on the preview, it looks like the Germa are gonna jump in and save everyone. Which I'm curious to see what exactly they can do that'll change things, and what they're gonna bring to the table exactly. Because at this point, the only thing we've seen of the Vince Smokes is that, aside from Reiju, is that they're basically all a bunch of entitled, a they're like every other novel in which they're a bunch of entitled assholes. So yeah, I'm curious as to what exactly they're going to be able to do. I can only I don't think they're going to be able to take on Big Mom and her and the other Big Mom pirates as a whole. Let's be real about that. I think they're just going to be able to stall them at best. But like I said, I guess we won't know for sure until we actually see it. Um, Now, one of the more interesting things for me in this episode is we do see how the homies on Whole Cake Island and were born, or hell, just how Whole Cake Island in general was established. And it's a very good world building scene, but again, it makes me question the validity of just a bit of how Big Mom inherited the Soul powers, because the series did clearly establish previously that once a Devil Fruit Eater dies, the power gets transferred to a new fruit, and the power is reborn and is basically reborn, basically somewhere else in the world. So, yeah, I know it's something I've talked about previously, but that's one thing that is going to bug the shit out of me with this arc to my dying day. Like, I'll always kind of be a little, really? How does that work, kind of thing? But yeah, it is. It was definitely a cool scene to see that. Yeah, big. How it was definitely cool to see how it was definitely cool to see how a lot of what Whole Cake Island is based around, and how it was created. It was kind of cool in that regard, and I think looking at Struzan's powers, I think that they never really even mention it or anything, but looking at Struzan's powers of the cook fruit, I think we can safely assume that he's basically the one who ended up creating basically the base of Whole Cake Island, which is Whole Cake Chateau. I think he's pretty much the one we can assume was the one who created like what Whole Cake Island basically is with his cook fruit, which the cook fruit is kind of one of those devil fruits where it's like, okay, it's handy in a certain regard, but on the other hand, what more can it do other than create food? It's useful to Big Mom for sure, but what use would it really have in battle? Like I guess it's one of those things where Oda is where One Piece is establishing that 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 there are fruits that can serve definitely more than one purpose other than just for battle. Like there are multiple fruits that serve multiple different functions for sure. Uh, Now we also learn a little what little ten. Now we also learn in this episode that what little tenuous relationship Big Mom had with the Giants back then was basically shattered the moment she ate Carmel and the others, and it's really kind of a sad state of affairs when you realize their hatred for her is again based on one giant ass web of lies that Carmel carefully weaved throughout her time with the Giants. Like she basically gained their trust to the point where pretty much everything she said, her word is law. Like they didn't even and and actually for a moment it was that kind of thinking that made me think for a moment like I thought it was pretty dumb of the Giants not to even bother looking into the events surrounding Caramel after her death, but then I remembered it's the government. I'm sure they hid their tracks well, and since no one other than I assume Struzan knew the full story, then I guess there wasn't much point. But yeah, guys. But that's my review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Facebook. That Night of Anime. Signing off. Later, guys.